What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so the fallout from LeBron's critique of media being too critical of the current NBA, fallout continues, even though this was actually originally a question asked to Anthony Edwards, but somehow it's revolving around LeBron, like everything, which further proves that the media is too obsessed with a 40-year-old basketball player's opinion. It's always focused on this guy. That's the problem. It's not us. We don't make it about him. They do. But anyway, Kendrick Perkins was on, I think the show's called NBA Today. I don't really watch ESPN anymore. I think that's what the name of the show called. But anyway, they're talking about LeBron's comments, and Kendrick Perkins said something that I agree with. In a nutshell, he said, look, LeBron needs to be a little bit more clear about whom he's talking about. Who are you talking about when you say there are people that are too critical of the NBA? Because he says it's not the mainstream sports media that's too critical. As a matter of fact, if anything, they praise him all the time, 24/7, 365, 52 a year. So it's not them. Who or whom are you speaking of?
Michael Jordan went through it, right? Michael Jordan, when he was dealing with the death of his daddy, did you see all the newspaper articles that were out about him, the stories that were out? When he was playing against the New York Knicks, did you see the gambling stories that was out? We didn't have social media, but he went through it. Kobe Bryant had his share of times that he went through it. I mean, look, I get what LeBron is saying. My only problem with LeBron saying this is that put an address on it. Put an address on it. Don't just leave it broad. Say who you speaking to. Because it can't be us, because we highlight him every single day, even when he's not playing. We make sure we appreciate his greatness every single day. So if you're talking to other people outside of the basketball world, like the hockey player that worked for our network, what's his name?
PK Subban.
Right, who contradicted himself throughout the whole time he was ranting about the NBA, claiming that, you know, the NBA is basically soft and all this, but he don't watch much of the NBA, so how can you critique it? I think a lot of people have gotten too comfortable when it comes down to critiquing and criticizing our game and taking it a step further than it should be. That's the part where I think LeBron was addressing. My only problem with that statement is put an address on who you talking to.
Well, and that's sort of what you were saying earlier, Brian, that I agree with. I do think that as a whole, whenever things like this happen, it's always a time for all of us to pause, to be able to look in and say, okay, how can we be better? And players as well. And I think that what you said on Get Up this morning, just about maybe the discourse around the NBA at times swinging away from appreciating the greatness of what we see is a valid criticism.
Yeah, so probably after Michael Jordan, no one has ever given more adulation in the history of the sport than LeBron.
Yeah.
So, of course, he's been appreciated, and we still appreciate him, absolutely. We're so happy that he has been able to play 22 years. But it is also true that I think he is correct that we are a little bit out of balance. And I think the key word here is balance. You don't want all love, and you don't want all hate. What you want is a combination that enriches the appreciation of the sport.
Okay. I'm just going to stay focused on what Kendrick Perkins is talking about, like as far as LeBron need to address whom he's talking about. To me, I get the impression that he's talking about the guys on NBA on TNT, because now, you know, they are affiliated with ESPN. So I think he's talking about them, and I think he's talking about, for the most part, social media. People like myself, people like Ticket TV, people like Brandon Loves Sports TV, people like Dreamers Pro. He's talking about us, but he's not going to ever name us because we're beneath him. But what we say bothers him. So he's lumping all of us together with the mainstream media. And that's them saying, nah, it ain't us. Speak who you're talking about. But he's not going to do that. Because if LeBron named one of us, it's a win for us. Because just a mention of my name on his channel, on his X/Twitter, it's probably going to gain me about 50,000 subscribers in one day. With all the haters that be lurking over there. But anyway, look, I agree with what Kendrick Perkins is saying, but getting back to the argument about this balance, and look, man, I've never seen a bunch of players and people whining like this, man. This is just beyond the norm, man. Like Kobe Bryant, and it was the early days of the internet, went through the absolute fire of that grape allegations, those grape allegations, grape charges, and that grape trial, right? He almost lost his career and his freedom behind that. There was a legitimate chance this man was going to go to prison. I remember this vividly. And he became poisonous to sponsors. The NBA didn't really want nothing to do with Kobe for 2 years. I would say from 2003 to 2005, they didn't want anything to do with him. They were trying to find alternative stars in Tracy McGrady or Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki. They were trying to find anybody else to be the face of the league. It took Kobe's greatness on the court. It took him doing things that we had never seen before. Michael Jordan included in 05-06 as far as scoring exploits. Individual games, at least. To get him back into... He was forced the NBA to talk about him again. Kobe Bryant was pretty much robbed of a couple of MVPs. He should have been, and I will say this to my dying day, he should have been the 2005-06 league MVP. But for some odd reason, they gave it, some godforsaken reason, they gave it to Steve Nash. Shaq should have been the MVP in 05. They gave it to Steve Nash. Now, a lot of it had to do with the malice at the palace and political, bullshit, but whatever. Michael Jordan, as he alluded to, Michael Jordan lost his father in 1993. There were allegations that, it was a mob debt. There were allegations that Michael Jordan's debt to the mob led to his father getting whacked. Michael Jordan was constantly called a sellout. You know what I'm saying? Michael Jordan wasn't doing enough for the black community. It wasn't no perfect world for those two dudes. It wasn't constant veneration of those guys. They caught hell. Magic Johnson did too. Magic Johnson was always compared, sometimes favorably to Larry Bird by covert racist sports columnists. They called him Tragic Johnson in '84 when he failed to perform at a high level in their finals. There were racial undertones to a certain extent. It wasn't widespread, but it was there. When they would compare him to Bird, Bird didn't want no parts of it, but it was there. Then when it was found out that Magic Johnson had HIV, man, I can't even say what they was calling him in private. And in public, and in publication. Calling him a bad role model for black men, or bad role model for kids. But yet, and I mean this in all sincerity, because I love Freddie Mercury. Freddie Mercury's getting all types of love. That was the hypocrisy of America at that point in time. So no, it was not this constant love fest. We may speak of them in that way now, but we're doing it in comparison. Hell, I gave Kobe Bryant hell when he was playing. And I said the last 2 years he sucked. He did. It was the truth. And he knew it. And he retired. It's because of injuries, but he retired. These guys want you to lie to them, man. They want you to just get on here and lie and tell them how great they are. You're not always playing great. Anthony Edwards, you shooting too many goddamn threes. Rudy Gobert, you are overrated in my opinion, in most people's opinion. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is balling. Luka is an all-time great, but he's not as great as most of his fans think he is. Will Chamberlain, to me, is a GOAT, if not the GOAT. Michael Jordan is a GOAT, if not the GOAT. Larry Bird, Magic, Kobe is better than what the mainstream media wants you to believe. Dr. J is better than what the mainstream media wants you to believe. Old school players should be more venerated. You guys, I'm not talking about the media, I'm talking about the media when I say this. You guys spend all day crapping all over old school legends. Look, this is the hypocrisy of some of these Laker fans. They will tell me and tell you how much George Mikan sucks, right? And that his three-peat shouldn't count. Because of the quality of the NBA. However, they don't uncount Mikan's rings when they're doing their dick measuring contests with Boston with championships, not do that. Since his rings don't count 5 of those 5 rings with the Lakers then. Since everybody say the Minneapolis Lakers not the same as the Lakers, don't count those 5 championships like they used to didn't do. Just say the Lakers got 12 and Boston got 8 and Boston, say the Lakers got 12 and Boston got 18. Instead of saying y'all got 17. Since you don't have that little respect for George Mikan, just do that. But anyway, I'm kind of ranting and raving about some silly crap. End of the day, man, LeBron James need to just be clear about who he's talking about. Because I think he's talking about social media. We get to this dude. And what really got him pissed is criticism of his son. That's what's really pissed people off in his camp. Criticism of him, or really him. Criticism of his son. He's a professional player. Criticism is going to be part of it. Don't all of a sudden find, you know what I'm saying, all of a sudden now you worrying about everybody else about, we're being too critical. You weren't saying that before. You weren't saying none of that before when the media was going after everybody else to be scapegoats for you and throwing them under the bus. Now all of a sudden you care. And Apex Jones posted something excellent on X/Twitter, and I agree with him. The real root of this problem is Clutch. There should not be an entity out there that's working to alter the narrative and to create a fake, false, constantly positive narrative for a particular player, that being LeBron James. Because that's what Clutch is doing. Clutch Sports / Clutch Media, or the La Media, they basically work overtime for the constant veneration and glorification of LeBron James. And at the same time, they constantly work to lower the status of Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, and to a lesser extent, other players. They do that on a daily basis. So if anybody started this war, it's them. We didn't start the fire, they did. See how that works? But anyway, That's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.